All right, good morning. Today we are beginning the Srimad Devi Bhagavata Purana. This is a little different from the other texts we've read here together. Mainly in that the two that we have read so far, the Bhagavata Purana and the Vishnu Purana, are both Vaishnava texts, primarily devoted to Vishnu, or forms of Vishnu, like Krishna and so on. This one's different. This one is Shakta, primarily devoted to Parashakti. And so a different sort of devotional spirit runs through it from the others. I have this old copy of it, very old. This was my father's copy of the book from India. Kind of creaky in the binding, but the other cool thing is that this is the copy that my dad used in his own spiritual seeking many years ago, and it is full of his notes, underlined passages and so on, that he gave to me. He gave it to my mom and she gave it to me. This one, well, yeah, I think I can explain more stuff as it comes up. I think we can just dive in and get started. Om Tat Sat. Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, the first book, chapter 1. I meditate on the beginningless Brahma Vidya, who is Sarva Chaitanya Rupa, of the nature of all consciousness, or of the form of all consciousness. May she stimulate our buddhi to the realization of that, or who stimulates our buddhi in different directions. Shaunaka said, "O highly fortunate Sutta, O noble Sutta, you are the best of persons. You are blessed inasmuch as you have thoroughly studied all the auspicious Puranas." You will recognize this from the Bhagavata Purana, and that we're going back again to the long narrations and conversations between Shaunaka and Sutta. Sutta, who taught Shaunaka multiple Puranas, including both the Bhagavata Purana that we've already read and this one. O sinless one, you have gone through all the 18 Puranas composed by Krishna Dvaipayana, who is, of course, Vedavyasa. These are endowed with 5 excellent characteristics and full of esoteric meanings. The 5 esoteric characteristics to which he refers are to make the mantras reveal themselves to one's own self through studying the Purana, to realize, to transfer to others the Shakti force of the mantras, and to prove the various manifestations of the several effects thereof, etc. The 5 aspects of the mantra siddhi are what he's referring to as being the secrets within the Puranas. O sinless one, it is not that you have read them like a parrot, simply hearing the words that Krishna Dvaipayana said and repeating them, but you have thoroughly grasped the meaning of them all, as you have learnt them from Vyasa himself, the son of Satyavati. Now it is our good merits that you have come at this divine, holy, excellent Vishvasan Kshetra, free from any of the defects of the Kali Yuga. O Sutta, these munis assembled here are desirous to hear the holy Purana Sanghita that yields religious merits. So describe this to us with your mind concentrated. O all-knowing Sutta, live long and be free from the threefold sorrows of existence. O highly fortunate one, narrate to us the Purana equivalent to the Vedas. O Sutta, Those persons that do not hear the Puranas are certainly deprived by the Creator, though they seem to have the organ of hearing, of the power of tasting the sweet essence of words, because the organ of hearing is gratified then and then only, when it hears the words of the wise, just as the organ of taste is satisfied then and then only, when it tastes the 6 kinds of rasas. This is known to all. The serpents that are void of the organ of hearing are enchanted by sweet music, then why should not those persons that have the organs of hearing and are averse to hear the Puranas be thrown under the category of the deaf? O Somya, hence all these Brahmins, being distressed with the fear of this Kali Yuga, have come here to this Naimisharanya forest, eager to hear attentively the Puranas, and are staying here with this one object. Time must be spent away, anyhow or other. Those that are fools while away their times in sports and other evil practices, and those that are learned pass away their times in meditating on the Shastras. But these Shastras are too vast and very varied. They contain jalpas, which are debates or wrangling discussions to win over the opposite party, vadas, which are sound philosophical doctrines to arrive at just conclusions, and various arthavadas, explanations and assertions recommending vidhis, which are curricula of practice, or precepts by stating the good arising from their proper observance, and evils arising from its omission, and also by adducing historical instances for its support, praises and eulogies, and filled with many argumentations. And amongst these shastras, again, the Vedanta is the sattvic, the Mimamsas are the rajasic, and the Nyaya Shastras with Hetuvadas are the tamasic. So the Shastras are varied. Similarly, the Puranas are of 3 kinds, sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. O Somya, one of gentle appearance, you have recited those Puranas, endowed with 5 characteristics and full of many narratives. Of these, the 5th Purana, equivalent to the Vedas and with all the good qualities, the Bhagavata, yields dharma and kama, gives liberation to those who desire for emancipation, and is very wonderful. You mentioned this before, but ordinarily. You did not dwell on this specially. Now these Brahmanas are eager to hear gladly this divine auspicious Bhagavata, the best of the Puranas. So kindly describe this in detail. O knower of dharma, by your faith and devotion to your Guru, you have become sattvic, and thus have thoroughly known the Purana Sanhitas spoken by Veda Vyasa. O omniscient one, therefore it is that we have heard many Puranas from your mouth. But we are not satisfied, as the Devas are not satisfied with the drinking of the nectar, but wish to go on drinking more and more. O Sutta, fie to the nectar even, as the drinking of nectar is quite useless in giving mukti. But hearing the Bhagavata gives instantaneous mukti from this samsara, this round of birth and death. O Sutta, we performed thousands and thousands of yajnas for the drinking of the amrita, but never we got full peace. The reason being that our yajnas led to heaven only. On the expiry of the period of punya, the heavenly life ceases, and one is expelled, as it were, from the heavens. Thus, incessant sojourns in this wheel of samsara, the constant rounds of births and deaths, never end. O knower of everything, thus, without jnana, mukti never comes to men, wandering in this kala chakra, this wheel of time, composed of the 3 gunas. So describe the holy Bhagavata, always beloved of the mumukshus, those that desire mukti. This secret work, yielding liberation, holy and full of all rasas. Thus ends the 1st chapter of the 1st skandha on the questioning about the Purana by Shaunaka and other rishis in the Mahapurana Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses by Maharshi Veda Vyasa. Chapter 2. Sri Sutta said, I am highly fortunate. I consider myself blessed, and I am purified by the Mahatmas, inasmuch as I am questioned by them about the highly meritorious Purana, famous in the Vedas. I will now speak in detail about this Purana, the best of the Agamas, approved of by all the Vedas, and the secret of all the Shastras. O Brahmins, I bow down to the gentle lotus feet, known in the three lokas, of the Devi Bhagavati, praised by Brahma and the other Devas, Vishnu, Mahesha, and others, meditated upon always by the Munindras, and which the yogis contemplate as the source of their liberation. Munindras. So, as we have learned from our Puranic reading so far, Indra is not a name, it's a title, essentially meaning Lord, the highest of a category. So Devindra, the Lord of the Devas, Munindras, meaning the highest of Munis, the highest of sages, who meditate always upon the gentle lotus feet of the Devi Bhagavati, is what's being said here. Today I will devotedly describe, in detail and in plain language, that Purana, which is the best of all the Puranas, which gives prosperity and contains all the rasas that a human being can conceive, the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam. May that highest primal Shakti, who is known as Vidya in the Vedas, who is omniscient, who controls the innermost of all, and who is skilled in cutting off the knot of the world, who cannot be realized by the wicked and the vicious, but who is visible to the Munis in their meditation. May that Bhagavati Devi give me always the buddhi fit to describe the Purana. I call to my mind the mother of all the worlds, who creates this universe, whose nature is both real and unreal, who preserves and destroys by her rajasic, sattvic, and tamasic qualities, and in the end resolves all these into herself and plays alone in the period of dissolution. At this time I remember that mother of all the worlds. It is commonly known that Brahma is the creator of this universe, and the knowers of the Vedas and the Puranas say so. But they also say that Brahma is born of the navel lotus of Vishnu. Thus it appears that Brahma cannot create independently. Again, Vishnu, from whose navel lotus Brahma is born, lies in yoga nidra, yogic sleep, on the bed of Ananta, the thousand-headed serpent, in the time of Pralaya. So how can we call Bhagavan Vishnu, who rests on the thousand-headed serpent Ananta, as the creator of the universe? For again, the refuge of Ananta is the water of the ocean Ekarnava. A liquid cannot rest without a vessel. So I take refuge of the mother of all beings, who resides as the Shakti of all, and thus is the supporter of all. I fly for refuge unto that Devi who is praised by Brahma while resting on the navel lotus of Vishnu, who is lying fast asleep in Yoga Nidra. O Munis, meditating on that Maya Devi, who creates, preserves, and destroys the universe, who is known as composed of the three gunas, and who grants mukti, I now describe the whole of the Puranas. Now you all better hear. The Purana Srimad Bhagavat, what he said here is Srimad Bhagavat. Of course, he is referring to the Srimad Devi Bhagavat, is excellent and holy. 18,000 pure shlokas are contained in it. Bhagavan Krishna Dvaipayana Veda Vyasa has divided this Purana into 12 auspicious skandhas and 318 chapters. 20 chapters compose the first skandha, 12 chapters in the second skandha, 30 chapters in the third skandha, 25 chapters in the fourth skandha, 35 in the fifth, 31 in the sixth, 40 in the seventh, 24 in the eighth, 50 chapters in the ninth, 13 in the 10th, 24 in the 11th, and 14 chapters are contained in the 12th skandha. O Munis, thus the Dvaipayan Muni has arranged his chapters in each skandha. Thus the Mahatma Veda Vyasa has divided this Bhagavata Purana into so many skandhas, into so many chapters, and that the number of verses is 18,000, I have already stated. That is denominated as Purana. So to explain something, this sort of running through the table of contents like this is actually very valuable in the original context of Puranas like this, in that it guards against later interpolations. The suttas of the Puranas, such as the sutta who is currently speaking, sutta being a title, suttas are the sages who memorize the Puranas, memorize that table. And when they memorize that table, anyone who comes upon some version of this Purana can check what they have against that table and see if there are chapters missing or chapters added. It is a very useful check on alterations of the Purana. Of course, it would be trickier to track down every such reference because there are tables of contents like slipped in here and there, and it would be a lot of work to find and edit all of them if you were deliberately altering the text in some way. So that's sort of the purpose of the Puranic suttas slipping in tables of contents like that. That is denominated as Purana, which contains the following 5 characteristics. 1, that it explains the creation of the universe, the sarga, creation. 2, secondary creation, visarga. In other words, the ongoing creations of things that were not the original beginning of the universe. 3, the dynasties. 4, the manvantaras. And 5, the description of the Manus and other kings. As you know, the 2 Puranas we've read so far certainly covered all 5 of those things in great length. Those are the basic requirements to be a Purana, that you cover those subjects. Shiva. This is not Shiva, the male Mahadeva Shiva. Shiva, long A, the Devi, Shiva's wife, female counterpart. Shiva is beyond prakritic attributes, eternal and ever omnipresent. She is without any change, immutable, unattainable but by yoga. She is the refuge of the universe, and her nature is Turiya Chaitanya. The translator just doesn't even attempt to translate Turiya Chaitanya. I'll try to explain it. Turiya means the 4th state of consciousness. So the 3 normal states of consciousness are waking, dreaming, and sleeping, as we know. The 4th, Turiya, is transcendental consciousness. Chaitanya means consciousness. So Turiya refers to the state of transcendental consciousness. Her nature is the 4th state. Mahalakshmi is her Sattvika Shakti. Saraswati is her Rajasic Shakti. And Mahakali is her Tamasic Shakti. These are all of feminine forms. The assuming of bodies by these 3 Shaktis for the creation of this universe is denominated as Sarga, the creation of the universe by the high-souled persons, the Maharpurusha, skilled in the Shastras. And the further resolution of these 3 Shaktis into Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesha for the creation, preservation, and destruction of this universe is denominated in this Purana as Pratisarga, the secondary creation. The description of the kings of the solar and lunar dynasties and the families of Hiranyakashipu and others is known as the description of the lineages of kings and their dynasties. The descriptions of Swayambhuva and other Manus and their ruling periods is known as Manvantaras, and the description of their descendants is known as the description of their families. Thus, these are the 5 characteristics which are the definition of a Purana. To be a Purana, you must cover those 5 subjects. O best of Munis, all the Puranas are endowed with these 5 characteristics. And having covered those, they can then also cover whatever else they want. So also is Mahabharata, written by Vedavyasa, characterized by these 5 things. This, the Mahabharata, is known as the 5th Veda and as Itihasa, or a history book. In this are something more than 100,000 shlokas. Shaunaka said, O Sutta, what are those Puranas and how many verses are contained in each? Speak all these in detail in this holy kshetra. We, the residents of Naimisharanya forest, are all very eager to hear this. Why we call ourselves as the residents of Naimisharanya here, you will realize then that in no other place that no other place exists in this Kali Yuga for hearing the holy discourses on Dharma. When we were afraid of the oncoming Kali Yuga, Brahma gave us a Manomaya Chakra. In other words, a wheel made of mental illusion. So it wasn't a real wheel, but they gave them a vision of a wheel. And said to all of us, follow this wheel, go after it, and the spot where the felly of the wheel will become so thin as to break and will not roll further. So in other words, the wheel will slowly become thinner and thinner until eventually it will stop. Keep following it. And where it stops, that country is the holy place. Kali Yuga will never be able to enter there. You all better remain there until the Satya Yuga comes back. Thus, according to the saying of Brahma, we have got orders to stay here. On hearing the words of Brahma, we went out quickly, keeping the wheel in view, our object being to determine which place is best and holiest. When we came here, the felly of the wheel became thin and shorn before my eyes. Hence this kshetra is called Naimish. It is the most sanctifying place. Kali Yuga cannot enter here. Hence the Mahatmas, Munis, and Siddhas, terrified by the Kali Yuga, have followed me and resorted to this place. Here we have performed yajnas with purodasa, meaning offerings of ghee into the fire, where no animals are sacrificed. Now we have no other important work to do, except to pass our time here until the arrival of Satya Yuga. O Sutta, we are extremely fortunate in all respects that you have come here. Purify us today by narrating to us the names of the Puranas, equivalent to the Vedas. O Sutta, you are also a learned orator. We too are ardent listeners, with no other works to bother our heads. Narrate to us today the auspicious holy Bhagavata Purana. O Sutta, long live you, and no ailings, internal, external, or from the Devas torment you. This is our blessing to you. We have heard that in the most sanctifying Purana narrated by Maharshi Dvaipayana, all about Dharma, Artha, and Kama are duly described, as well as the acquiring of Tattva Jnana and liberation are also spoken of. O Sutta, our desires are not satisfied the more we hear of these beautiful holy words. Now describe to us the highly pure Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, where all the leelas of the mother of the three worlds, purifying sins, adorned with all the qualifications, are described as yielding all desires like the Kalpavriksha tree. Thus ends the second chapter of the first skandha on the description of the Purana in Mahapurana Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses by Maharshi Vedavyasa. Chapter 3. Sutta said, O best of the Munis, I am now telling you the names of the Puranas exactly as I have heard them from Vedavyasa the son of Satyavati. Listen. The Purana beginning with Ma are 2 in number. Those beginning with Bha are 2. Those beginning with Bra are 3. Those beginning with Va are 4. Those beginning respectively with A, Na, Pa, Ling, Ga, Hu, and Ska are 1 each. Ma means Matsya Purana, Markandeya Purana. Bha signifies Bhavishya Bhagavata Puranas. Bra signifies Brahma, Brahmanda, and Brahma Vaivarta Puranas. Va signifies Vamana, Vayu, Vishnu, and Varaha Puranas. A signifies Agni Purana. Na signifies Narada Purana. Pa signifies Padma Purana. Ling signifies Linga Purana. Ga signifies Govinda Puranam. Hu signifies Kurma Purana. And Ska signifies Skanda Puranam. These are the 18 Puranas. O Shaunaka, in the Matsya Purana there are 14,000 shlokas. In the wonderfully varied Markandeya Puranam, there are 9,000 shlokas. Indeed, it is wonderfully varied. I've read it. It's quite different from the others. In the Bhavishya Purana, 14,500 shlokas are counted by the Munis, the seers of truth. In the Holy Bhagavata, there are 18,000 shlokas. In the Brahma Purana, there are Ajuta, or 10,000 shlokas. In the Brahmanda Purana, there are 12,100 shlokas. In the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, there are 18,000 shlokas. In the Vamana Purana, there are 10,000 shlokas. In the Vayu Purana, there are 24,600 shlokas. In the greatly wonderful Vishnu Purana, there are 23,000 shlokas. And this is an interesting point. So we just read the Vishnu Purana. There were nowhere near that many shlokas. Nowhere near 23,000. Not even half of that. A huge amount of these ancient scriptures have been lost in Kali Yuga. What we have of the Vishnu Purana is only a tiny fraction of the original. In the Agni Purana, there are 16,000 shlokas. In the Brihat Narada Purana, there are 25,000 shlokas. In the Big Padma Purana, there are 55,000 shlokas. In the voluminous Linga Purana, 11,000 shlokas exist. In the Garuda Puranam, spoken by Hari, 19,000 shlokas exist. In the Kurma Purana, 17,000 shlokas exist. And in the greatly wonderful Skanda Purana, there are 81,000 shlokas of sinless rishis. That is by far the longest. Thus, I have described to you the names of all the Puranas and the number of verses contained in them. Now hear about the Upa-Puranas. So, there are more than 18. There are the Mahapuranas and the Upa-Puranas. So, the Upa-Puranas. The first is the Upa-Purana narrated by Sanat Kumara. Next comes Narasingha Purana, then Naradiya Purana, Shiva Purana, the Purana narrated by Durvasa, Kapila Purana, Manava Purana, Alshanasa Purana, Varuna Purana, Kalika Purana, Samva Purana, Nandikeshvara Purana, Saura Purana, the Purana spoken by Parashara, Aditya Purana, Maheshvara Purana, Bhagavata and Vasishta Purana. These Upa-Puranas are described by the Mahatmas. After compiling the 18 Puranas, the 18 Mahapuranas, Vedavyasa, the son of Satyavati, composed Mahabharata that has no rival out of these Puranas. At every Manvantara, in each Dvapara Yuga, Vedavyasa expounds the Puranas duly to preserve the religion. Vedavyasa is no other person than Vishnu himself in an avatar. He, in the form of Vedavyasa, divides the one Veda into 4 parts in every Dvapara Yuga for the good of the world. The Brahmins of the Kali Yuga are short-lived, and their buddhi is not sharp. They cannot realize the meaning after studying the Vedas. Knowing this, in every Dvapara Yuga, Bhagavan expounds the holy Purana Sanhitas to more clearly explain the meaning of the Vedas. The more so, because women Shudras and the lower Dvijas are not entitled to hear the Vedas. For their good, the Puranas have been composed. Absolutely everyone. The Puranas are for absolutely everyone. The present auspicious Manvantara is Vaivasvata. It is the 7th in due order, and the son of Satyavati, the best of the knowers of Dharma, is the Vedavyasa of the 28th Dvapara Yuga of this 7th Manvantara. He is my guru. In the next Dvapara Yuga, Ashvatthama, the son of Drona, will be the Vedavyasa. 27 Vedavyasas have expired, and they duly compiled each their own Purana Sanhitas in their own Dvapara Yugas. The Rishi said, O highly fortunate Sutta, kindly describe to us the names of the previous Vedavyasas, the reciters of the Puranas, in the previous 27 Dvapara Yugas. Sutta said, in the first Dvapara of this Manvantara, Brahma himself divided the Vedas. In the second Dvapara, the first Prajapati Vyasa did the same. So Shakra in the third, Indra did it himself. Brahaspati in the fourth, Surya in the fifth, Yama in the sixth, Indra again in the seventh, Vasishta in the eighth, Sarasvata Rishi in the ninth, Tridhama in the 10th, Trivrasha in the 11th, Bharadvaja in the 12th, Antariksha in the 13th, Dharma in the 14th, Eyaruni in the 15th, Dhananjaya in the 16th, Medhatiti in the 17th, Vrati in the 18th, Atri in the 19th, Gautama in the 20th, Uttama, whose soul was fixed on Hari, in the 21st, Vajasravavena in the 22nd, his family descendant, Soma in the 23rd, Trunavindhu in the 24th, Bhargava in the 25th, Sakti in the 26th, Jatukarnya in the 27th, and Krishna Dvaipayana became the 28th Vedavyasa in the Dwapara Yugas. Thus I have spoken of the 28 Vedavyasas as I heard. I have heard the holy Srimad Bhagavat from the mouth of Krishna Dvaipayana. This removes all troubles, yields all desires, and gives moksha, and is full of the meanings of the Vedas. This treatise contains the essence of all the Shastras, and is dear always to the mamukshas, the mumukshas, those who want moksha. O best Munis, thus, compiling the Puranas, Vedavyasa thought this Purana to be the best. So, he settled that his own son, the high-souled Shukadeva, born of the dry woods used for kindling fire, having no passion for worldly things, would be the fit student to be taught this Purana, and therefore taught him. At that time, I was a fellow student along with Shukadeva, and I heard everything from the mouth of Vyasadeva, and realized the secret meanings thereof. This has happened through the grace of the merciful Guru Vedavyasa. Here ends the 3rd chapter of Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, on praising the Puranas and on each Vyasa of every Dwapara Yuga. Chapter 4. The Rishi said, O Somya, how was Shukadeva born? Who studied these Purana Samhitas? By which wife of Vyasadeva, and how? O highly intelligent one, you have just spoken that Shukadeva was not born from a womb in the natural way, that he was born of the dry pieces of wood for a Homa sacrifice. But we heard before that the great ascetic was a yogi even while in his mother's womb. So a great doubt comes to our minds. You better remove that today. How he studied also these Puranas, as vast in their nature. Say this. Sutta said, in long past days, Satyavati's son Vedavyasa, while in his own hermitage on the banks of the river Sarasvati, was greatly wondering to see a pair of chatakas, or sparrows. He saw the pair putting frequently the food into the beak of their young one, just born of the egg, of beautiful body, red mouth, and greasy body. They do not care at all for their own hunger and toil. All they are caring for is to nurture their young one. He said also that the pair are rubbing their bodies over the body of their child, and kissing lovingly the mouth of the young one, and feeling the highest pleasure. Seeing this wonderful affection of the two sparrows towards their young, Vedavyasa became very anxious, and thought over the following in his mind. Oh, what wonder is there, when the birds have so much filial affection towards their child, that men who want services from their sons would show their affection towards their sons. This pair of sparrows will not perform the happy marriage of their young one, and will not see the face of their son's wife, because they're sparrows, nor when they will grow old, will their child become very religious and serve them to attain great merits in heaven. Nor do they expect their child would earn money and satisfy them, nor that the child would perform when they die their funeral obsequies duly and help them in their sojourn in the next world. Nothing of all these. Nor will the child perform the Sraddha ceremony at Gaya, nor will the child offer the oblation of a blue bull on the day of offering the sacrifice to its ancestor. Yet the pair of sparrows have so much affection towards their young one. Oh, in this world, to touch the body of the sun, and especially to nurture the sons, is the highest happiness in life. There is no prospect in the afterbirth of the sunless. Never, never will heaven be his. Funny comment. So I mentioned earlier at the very start that what I'm reading is my father's old copy of this book that he studied long ago. He underlined that sentence. There is no prospect in the afterbirth of the sunless. Never, never will heaven be his. This was actually part of what led to my birth. Without son, there was none other who can be of help in the next world. Thus, in the Dharma Shastras, Manu and other munis declare that the man who has sons goes to heaven, and the sonless one can never go to heaven. This isn't straightforwardly what they say. Vyasa, in a spirit of longing for sons, is very much over-exaggerating the point. But it's to illustrate that a desire to have a son, a very strong desire to have a son, has arisen in him. The man possessing a son is entitled to the heavenly pleasures, can be vividly seen rather than imagined. The man with son is freed from sins. This is the word of the Vedas. The sonless man becomes very much distressed even at the time of death, and while lying on bed, that is the ground at that time, mournfully thinks, "This all my vast wealth, various things, this my beautiful house, who will enjoy all these?" When the sonless man is thus perplexed in his mind at the time of his death and becomes restless, then it is sure that his future career is full of misfortunes. Unless one's mind is calm and serene at the time of death, he can never attain a good goal. Thus thinking variously, the son of Satyavati, Vedavyasa, sighed heavily and became unmindful. He thought of various plans, and at last, coming to a definite conclusion, went to the Sumeru mountain to perform tapasya. On reaching there, he thought, which deva will he worship? Vishnu, Shiva, Indra, Brahma, Surya, Ganesha, Kartikeya, Agni, or Varuna? Who will grant him a boon quickly and thus satisfy his desires? While thus cogitating in his mind, came there the Muni Narada, of one mind and with lute in hand, accidentally in his course of travels. In other words, that he just happened to wander through. He wasn't looking for Vyasa, but on Mount Sumeru is not an unlikely place to encounter such beings. Seeing Narada, the Satyavati's son, Vedavyasa, gave him a hearty welcome with great gladness, offering him argya and asana as in a seat, to sit down on, and asked about his welfare. Hearing this question of welfare, Narada Muni spoke out, "O Dvaipayana, why do you look so careworn? First speak this out to me." Vedavyasa said, "A sonless man has no goal, therefore there is no happiness in my mind. I am always anxious to get a son, and therefore I am very sorry. Today my mind is sorely troubled with the one idea, which deva I may satisfy by my tapasya, who will grant me my desires. Now I take your refuge. O merciful Maharshi, you are omniscient. Say this quickly, which deva shall I take for my refuge who will grant me a son?" Sutta said, thus questioned by Krishna Dvaipayana Vedavyasa, the high-souled Narada Muni, well-versed in the Vedas, became very glad and spoke thus. "O highly fortunate Parashara's son, the question that you have asked me today was formerly asked by my father to Narayana. At this, Narayana Vasudeva, the Deva of the Devas, the creator, preserver, and destroyer of the universe, the husband of Lakshmi, the four-armed, wearing yellow garment, holding conch shell discus club, and with the mark Srivatsa adorning his breast and decorated with the Kaustuba gem, the divinity himself, became merged in great yoga. At this my father became greatly surprised and said, O Janardana, thou art the Deva of the Devas, the Lord of the present, the past, and the future, the Lord of this universe. Why art thou meditating on yoga? And what is it that thou art meditating upon? O best of the Devas, thou art the Lord of the entire universe, and yet thou art now merged in deep meditation. At this I am greatly surprised. What more wonderful than this can happen? O Lord of Rama, I am sprung from the lotus of thy navel and have become the Lord of this whole universe. Who is there in this universe that is superior to thee? Kindly say this to me. O Lord of the world, thou art the origin of all, the cause of all causes, the creator, preserver, and destroyer, and the capable doer of all actions. O Maharaja, at thy will I create this whole universe, and Rudra destroys this world in due time. He is always under thy command. O Lord, by thy command the sun roams in the sky, the wind blows in various auspicious or inauspicious ways, and the fire is giving heat, and the cloud showers rain. I don't see in the three lokas anyone superior to thee. Then, upon whom art thou meditating, while being questioned by his very intelligent son, Sukadeva, not born in the usual way from the womb? Dvaipayana expounded all the secret excellent meanings of the Purana, and thereby I also came to know them. O saintly persons, thus Shukadeva, sincerely earnest to cross this endless bottomless ocean of samsara, tasted of the wonderful fruits of the Vedas, the Kalpa tree, this Srimad Bhagavata with its numerous stories and anecdotes with great eagerness and intense pleasure. Oh, who is there in this world that is not freed from this terror of Kali Yuga after he has heard this Bhagavatam? Even if the greatest sinner, void of the right ways of living, and achara as ordained in the Vedas, hears on a pretense this excellent Devi Bhagavata, the chief of the Puranas, he enjoys all the great enjoyments of this world, and in the end attains the eternal place occupied by the yogis. She who is rare in her nirguna aspect to even Hari and Hara, who is very dear as Tattva Vidya to the Jnanins, whose real nature can be realized only in Samadhi, she resides always in the cavity of the heart of the hearers of the Bhagavata Purana. He who getting the all-qualified human birth, and getting the reciter of this Purana, the boat to cross this world, as it were, but does not hear this blissful Purana, he is certainly deprived by the Creator. How is it that the wayward, dull-headed persons, getting the vicious ears, can hear always the faults and calumnies of others that are entirely useless, and cannot hear this pure Purana that contains the four Vargas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha? This is my main point of doubt. O one of good vows, I am thy devotee. Be merciful to me and speak this to me. There is almost nothing that is secret to Mahapurushas. This is the well-known fact. Thus hearing Brahma's words, Bhagavan Narayana spoke. O Brahman, I now speak out my mind to you. Listen carefully. Though the Devas, Danavas, and humans and all the lokas know that you are the creator, I am the preserver, and Rudra is the destroyer, yet it is to be known that the saints versed in the Vedas have come to this conclusion by inference from the Vedas, that the creation, preservation, and destruction are performed by the creative force, preservative force, and destructive force. The Rajasic creative force residing in you, the Sattvic preservative force residing in me, and the Tamasic destructive force residing in Rudra are the all in all. Force, of course, being Shakti. When these Shaktis become absent, you become inert and incapable I to create, I to preserve, and Rudra to destroy. O intelligent Suvrata, we are always under that force, that Shakti, directly or indirectly. Here are instances that you can see and infer. At the time of Pralaya, I lie down on the bed of Ananta, subservient to that Shakti. Again, I wake up in the time of creation duly under the influence of time. I am always subservient to that Mahashakti. I am engaged in tapasya for a long time. Sometime I enjoy with Lakshmi. Sometimes I fight battles, terrible to all the lokas, with the Danavas, and involving great bodily troubles. O knower of Dharma, it was before your presence that I fought hand to hand a battle for 5,000 years on that one great ocean, and the long past days with the two demons Madhu and Paitabha, sprung from the wax of my ear, maddened with pride, and by the grace of the Devi, I successfully killed those two Danavas. O highly fortunate one, you realized then the Mahashakti, higher than the highest and the cause of all causes. Then why are you asking again and again that question? By the will of that Shakti, I have got this idea of man and roam on the great ocean. In yuga after yuga, I assume by her will the turtle, boar, Narasingha, and dwarf incarnations. No one likes to take birth in the womb of inferior animals. Do you think that I willingly take unpleasant births, as in the womb of boars, turtles? Certainly not. He's saying somewhat humorously here. What independent man is there who abandons the pleasurable enjoyment with Lakshmi and takes birth in inferior animals like fish, or leaves his seat on the seat of Garuda and becomes engaged in great wars and conflicts? O Swayambhu, in ancient days you saw before your eyes that my head was cut off when the bowstring suddenly gave way, and then you brought a horse's head, and by that help the divine artist Vishvakarma stuck that on my headless body. O Brahma, since then I am known amongst men by the name of Hayagriva, the horse-headed form of Vishnu. This is well known to you. Now say, were I independent, would such an ignominy have happened to me? Never. Therefore I am not independent. I am in every way under that Shakti, O lotus-born. I always meditate on that Shakti, and I do not know any other than this Shakti. Narada said, thus spoke Vishnu to Brahma. O Muni Veda Vyasa, Brahma spoke these to me. So you too, better meditate on the lotus feet of Bhagavati, calmly in the lotus of your heart for the success of your idea. That Devi will give you all that you wish. Sutta said, at these words of Narada, Satyavati's son Vedavyasa went out to the hills for tapasya, trusting the lotus feet of the Devi as the all in this world. Thus ends the 4th chapter of the 1st skandha on the excellency of the Devi in the Mahapurana Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses. Chapter 5. The Rishi said, O Sutta, our minds are merged in the sea of doubt. Hearing this, your most wonderful saying, surprising to the whole world. The head of Janardhan Madhava, the Lord of all, was severed off of his body, and he was afterwards known as Hayagriva the horse-faced. Oh, what more wonder can there be than this? Whom the Vedas even praise, all the Devas rest on whom, who is the cause of all causes, the Adi Deva Jagannatha, the Lord of the universe. Oh, how is it that his head came to be severed? O highly intelligent one, describe all this to me in detail. Sutta said, O Munis, hear all attentively the glorious deeds of the supremely energetic Vishnu, the Deva of the Devas. Once on a time, the eternal Deva Janardana became tired after the terrible continuous battle for 10,000 years. After this, the Lord Narayana seated himself in Padmasana, in some lovely place, on a level plot of ground, and placing his head on the front of his bow, with the bow strung, and placed erect on the ground, he fell fast asleep. Vishnu, the Lord of Rama, was exceedingly tired, and thus he fell soon into a deep sleep. At this time, Indra and the other devas, with Brahma and Mahesha, began a yajna. Then they, for the success in their work, went to the region of Vaikunta to meet with the Deva Janardana, the Lord of Yajnas. There the Devas, not finding Vishnu, came to know by their dhyana where Bhagavan Vishnu was staying, and thither they went. They saw that the Lord Vishnu, the Deva of the Devas, was lying unconscious, being under the arms of Yoga Nidra, the yogic sleep. Therefore they took their seats there. Seeing the Lord of the universe asleep, Brahma, Rudra, and the other Devas became anxious. Indra then addressed the Devas, O best of the Suras. Suras is another word for Devas. Literally meaning wine drinkers, actually. Now what is to be done? How shall we rouse Bhagavan from his sleep? Now think of the means by which this can be effected. Hearing Indra's words, Shambhu said, O good Devas, now we must finish our sacrificial work, but if the sleep of Bhagavan be disturbed, he would get angry. Hearing Shankara's words, Parameshti Brahma created Vamri insects, a sort of white ants, so that they might eat up the forepart of the bow that was lying on the ground, causing the other end to rise up and thus break his sleep. Thus the Deva's purpose will no doubt be fulfilled. Thus settling his mind, the eternal Deva of Devas, Brahma, ordered the white Vamri ants to cut the bowstring. Hearing this order of Brahma, the Vamri ants spoke to Brahma thus, O Brahman, how can we disturb the sleep of the Deva, Lord of Lakshmi, the Jagadguru? To rouse one from one's deep sleep, to interrupt one in one's speech, to interrupt the love between a husband and wife couple, to separate a child from one's mother, all these are equivalent to Brahmahatya. Therefore, O Deva, how can I interrupt the happiness of sleep of the Deva? And what benefit shall I derive by eating the bowstring, so that I may incur this vicious act? But a man can commit a sin if there be any interest of his. I am ready to eat this if I get a personal interest. Brahma said, we will give you too share in this our yajna. So hear me, do our work and rouse Vishnu from his sleep. During the time of performing Homa, whatever ghee will fall outside the Homa kund will fall to your share. So be quick and do this. Suta said, thus ordered by Brahma, the Vamri insect soon ate away the forend of the bow that rested on the ground. Immediately the string gave way and the bow went up. The other end became free and a terrible sound took place. The Devas became afraid. The whole universe got agitated. The earth trembled. The sea became swollen. The aquatic animals became startled. Violent wind blew. The mountains shook. Ominous meteors fell. The quarters assumed a terrible aspect. The sun went down below the horizon. In that time of distress, the Devas became anxious what evil might come down. O ascetics, while the Devas were thus cogitating, the head, with crown on it, of the Deva Vishnu vanished away. Nobody knew where it fell. When the awful darkness disappeared, Brahma and Mahadeva saw the disfigured body of Vishnu with its head off. Seeing that headless figure of Vishnu, they were greatly surprised. They were drowned in the ocean of cares, and overwhelmed with grief, began to weep aloud. O Lord, O Master, O Deva, O Eternal One, what unforeseen extraordinary mishap occurred to us today? O Deva, thou cannot be pierced nor cut asunder, nor are you capable of being burnt. How is it then that thy head has been taken away? Is this the Maya of some Deva? O all-pervading one, the Devas cannot live when thy condition is thus. We do not know what affection dost thou have towards us. We are crying because of our selfish ends. Perhaps this therefore has occurred. The Daityas, Yakshas, or Rakshasas have not done this. Indeed, they could not. O Lord of Lakshmi, whose fault will we ascribe this to? The Devas themselves have committed this loss to themselves. O Lord of the Devas are now dependent. They are under thee. Now where are we to go? What are we to do? There is none to save the dull, stupid Devas. At this juncture, seeing Shiva and the other Devas crying, Brihaspati, supremely versed in the Vedas, consoled them thus. O highly fortunate one, what use will there be in thus crying and repenting? It ought you now to consider the means that you should adopt to redress your calamities. O Lord of the Devas, fate and one's own exertion and intelligence are equal. If the success comes not through fate, meaning luck or chance, one is certainly to show one's prowess and merit, and bring one's own success about through one's own actions. Indra said, fie to your exertion, when before our eyes the head of Bhagavan Vishnu himself has been carried off somehow. Fie to your prowess and intelligence. Fate is, in my opinion, the supreme. Brahma said, whatever auspicious or inauspicious is ordained by Deva, by fate, everyone must bear that. No one can go beyond the Deva. When one has taken a body, one must experience pleasure and pain. There is no manner of doubt in this. See, in long past days, by the irony of fate, Shambhu severed my head. His generative organ, too, dropped down through a curse. Similarly, Hari's head has today fallen into the salt ocean. By the influence of time, Indra, the lord of Shachi, had 1,000 genital marks over his body, was expelled from heaven and had to live in the Manasarovar in the lotuses, and had to suffer many other miseries. O glorious ones, when such personages have suffered pains, then who else is there in the world that does not suffer? So you all cease your sorrows, and meditate on the eternal Mahamaya, who is the mother of all, who is the supporter of all, who is of the nature of Brahma Vidya, the supreme knowledge, and who is beyond the gunas, who is the Paraprakriti, and who pervades the three lokas, the whole universe, moving and unmoving. She will dispense our welfare. Suta said, thus saying to the Devas, Brahma ordered all the Vedas that were incarnate there in their forms, for the successful issue of the Devas' work. Brahma said, O Vedas, now go and chant hymns to the sacred eternal highest Devi Mahamaya, who is Brahma Vidya, who brings all actions to their successful issues, who is hidden in all forms. Hearing his words, the all-beautiful Vedas began to chant hymns to Mahamaya, who can be comprehended by jnana, and who pervades the world. The Vedas said, Obeisance to the Devi, to the Mahamaya, to the Auspicious One, to the Creatrix of the universe. We bow down to thee, who is beyond the gunas, the ruler of all the beings. O Mother, thou givest to Shankara even his desires. Thou art the receptacle of all things. Thou art the prana of all living beings. Thou art Buddhi, Lakshmi, Shubha, Kshama, Shanti, Sradha, Medha, Dhriti, and Smriti. Thou art the bindu over the pranava, in other words, the in the om sound, and thou art of the nature of semi-moon. Thou art Gayatri, thou art Vyahriti, thou art Jaya, Vijaya, Dhatri, the supportress, Lajja, Kirti, Icha, and Daya in all beings. O Mother, thou art the merciful mother of the three worlds. Thou art the adorable, auspicious Vidya, benefiting all the lokas. Thou destroyest the universe, and thou skillfully resides in the bija mantras. Therefore are we praising thee. O Mother, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshvara, Indra, Surya, Agni, Sarasvati, and other regions of the universe are all thy creation. So none of them is superior to thee. Thou art the mother of all things, moving and non-moving. O Mother, when thou dost will to create this visible universe, thou createst first Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshvara, and makest them create, preserve, and destroy this universe. But thou remainest quite unattached to the world. Ever thou remainest constant in thy one form. No one in this universe is able to know thy nature, nor is there anybody who can enumerate thy names. How can he promise to jump across the illimitable ocean who cannot jump across an ordinary well? O Bhagavati, no one amongst the Devas even knows particularly thy endless power and glory. Thou art alone the lady of the universe and the mother of the world. The Vedas all bear testimony how thou alone hast created all this unreal and fleeting universe. O Devi, thou without any effort and having no desires, hast become the cause of this visible world, thyself remaining unchanged. This is a great wonder. We cannot conceive this combination of contrary varieties in one. O Mother, how can we understand thy power, unknown to all the Vedas even, when thou thyself dost not know thy nature? We are bewildered at this. O Mother, it is that thou dost know nothing about the falling off of Vishnu's head, or knowingly thou wanted to examine Vishnu's prowess? Is it that Hari incurred any heinous sin? How can that be? Where is sin to thy followers who serve thee? O Mother, why art thou so much indifferent to the Devas? It is a great wonder that the head of Vishnu is severed. Really, we are merged in great misfortunes. Thou art clever in removing the sorrow of thy devotees. Why art thou delaying and fixing again the head on Vishnu's body? O Devi, is it that thou, taking offense on the gods, hast cast that on Vishnu? Or was it that Vishnu became proud, and to curb that, thou hast played thus? Or is it that the Daityas, having suffered defeat from Vishnu, went and practiced severe tapasya in some beautiful holy place and have got some boons? And so Vishnu's head has thus fallen off. Or is it, O Bhagavati, that thou wert very eagerly interested to see Vishnu's headless body, and therefore thou hast seen thus? O prime force, O Parashakti, is it that thou got angry on the daughter of the ocean, Lakshmi Devi? Else why hast thou deprived her of her husband? Lakshmi is born as a part of thine, so thou ought to forgive her offense. Therefore dost thou gladden her by giving her back her husband's life. The principal devas, engaged in thy service, always make their pranams to thee, O Devi. Beest thou kind enough, and make alive the Deva Vishnu, the Lord of all, and crossest us across this ocean of sorrows. O Mother, we cannot make out anything whatsoever where Hari's head has gone. We have no other protectress than thee, who canst give back his life. O Devi, dost thou give life to the whole world, as the nectar gives life to all the Devas? Sutta said, thus prayed by the Vedas with their angas, with samaganas, the songs from the Samadeva, the Nirguna Maheshwari Devi Mahamaya became pleased. Then the auspicious voice came to them from the heavens, gladdening all, and pleasing to the ears, though no form was seen. O Suras, do not care anything about it. You are immortal. What fear can you have? Come to your senses. I am very much pleased by the praise sung by the Vedas. There is no doubt in this. Amongst humans, Whoever will read this my stotra with devotion will get all what he desires. Whoever will hear this devotedly during the 3 sandhyas, so at dawn, sunset, dawn, noon, and sunset, will be freed from troubles and become happy. When this stotra has been sung by the Vedas, it is equivalent to the Vedas. Does anything take place in this world without any cause? Now hear why Hari's head was cut off. Once on a time, seeing the beautiful face of his dear wife Lakshmi Devi, Hari laughed in her presence. At this, Lakshmi Devi came to understand that he has surely seen something ugly in my face and has therefore laughed. Otherwise, why would my husband laugh at seeing me? But what reason can there be to see ugliness in my face now after so long a time? And why should he laugh without seeing something ugly, without any cause? Or it may be, he has made some other beautiful woman as my co-wife. Thus, arguing variously in her mind, Mahalakshmi gradually got angry, and Tamoguna slowly possessed her. Then, by turn of fate, in order that the god's work might be completed. So, not just through ignorance, but to fulfill a divine purpose, all this was. Very fierce tamas shakti entered into her body. She got very angry and slowly said, "Let thy head fall off." Thus, owing to feminine nature and the destiny of Bhagavan, Lakshmi cursed without any thought of good or bad, causing her own suffering. By the tamasi shakti possessing her, she thought that having a co-wife would be more painful than her widowhood, and thus she cursed him. Falsehood, vain boldness, craftiness, stupidity, impatience, overgreediness, impurity, and harshness are the natural qualities of women, the sage says rather harshly. Owing to that curse, the head of Vasudeva has fallen into the salt ocean. Now I will fix the head on his body as before. O Sura Sattamas, there is another cause also regarding this affair. That will bring you great success. In ancient days, a famous Daitya named Hayagriva practiced severe tapasya on the bank of the Saraswati River. Abandoning all sorts of enjoyments, with control over his senses and without any food, the Daitya did japam repeatedly of the one-syllabled Maya Bija mantra, and meditating on the form of the Tamasi Shakti of mine adorned with all ornaments, practiced very terrible austerities for 1,000 years. I too went to the place of austerities in my Tamasi form, meditated on by the Daitya, and appeared thus before him. There, seated on the lion's back, feeling compassion for his tapasya, I spoke to him, "O glorious one, O one of good vows, I have come to grant a boon to thee." Hearing the words of the Devi, the Daitya instantly got up, and falling down with devotion at her feet, circumambulated her. Looking at my form, his large eyes became cheerful with feelings of love and filled with tears. Shedding tears then, he began to chant hymns to me. Hayagriva said, "Obeisance to the Devi Mahamaye. I bow down to thee, the creatrix, the preserver, and the destructrix of the universe. Skilled in showing favor to thy devotees, giver of the devotees' desires, obeisance to thee. O thou, the giver of liberation, O thou, the auspicious one, I bow down to thee. Thou art the cause of the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and akasha. Thou art the cause of form, taste, smell, sound, and touch. O Maheshwari, the 5 jnanendriyas, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin, and the 5 karmendriyas, the hands, feet, speech, arms, and the reproductive organs, are all created by thee." The Devi said, "O child, I am very much satisfied with your wonderful tapasya and devotion. Now say, what boon do you want? I will give you the boon that you desire." Hayagriva said, "O mother, grant me that boon by which death will not come to me, and I may be invincible by the suras and asuras. I may be a yogi and immortal." The Devi said, "Death brings in birth, and birth brings in death. This is inevitable. This order of things is extant in this world. Never does its violation take place. O best of the Rakshasas, thus knowing your death sure, think in your mind and ask another boon." Hayagriva said, "O mother of the universe, if it be that thou art not willing at all to grant me immortality, then grant me this boon, that my death may not occur from any other than one who is horse-faced. Be merciful, and grant me this boon that I desire." O highly fortunate one, go home and govern your kingdom at your ease. Death will not occur to you from any other beings than from one who is horse-faced. Thus granting this boon, the Devi vanished. Becoming very glad on getting this boon, Hayagriva went to his residence. Since then, the wicked Daitya has been troubling very much all the Devas and Munis. There is none in the three worlds to kill him, for certainly an ordinary horse cannot do it. So let Vishvakarma take a horse's head and fix it on the headless body of Vishnu. Then Bhagavan Hayagriva will slay the vicious, wicked Asura for the good of all the Devas. Suta said, thus speaking to the Devas, Bhagavati Sharvani remained silent. The Devas became very glad and spoke to Vishvakarma. Kindly do this work of the Devas and fix Vishnu's head. He will become Hayagriva and kill the indomitable Danava. Suta said, hearing these words, Vishvakarma quickly cut off with his axe the head of a horse, brought it before the Devas, and fixed it on the headless body of Vishnu. By the grace of Mahamaya, Bhagavan became the horse-faced Hayagriva. Then, a few days after, Bhagavan Hayagriva killed that proud Danava, the Deva's enemy, by sheer force. Any man hearing this excellent anecdote becomes freed certainly of all sorts of difficulties. Hearing or reading Mahamaya's glorious deeds, pure and sin-destroying, gives all sorts of wealth. Thus ends the 5th chapter of the 1st Skandha on the description of the narrative of Hayagriva in the Mahapurana Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses. And I think that is a good place to stop for our first day.
Awesome. Thanks, Devila. Thanks so much, Jayma.
Jayma, thank you very much for coming.
Yeah. Could I ask a couple questions?
Sure. Yeah.
So one thing is, so Vishnu kind of says that he basically meditates on Shakti. In the sense that Shiva meditates on Vishnu forms, and like we all have our god that we're devoted to, and like in that sense, like Vishnu meditates on Shakti.
Yes. Furthermore, Vishnu made the point here that it's true to say, for example, that Brahma creates the universe, Vishnu preserves it, and Shiva destroys it. But another way of looking at the same thing is the energy of creation creates it. And it is Brahma who is wielding that energy. The energy of preservation, the quality of preservingness preserves it. And yes, it is Vishnu who wields that. The power of destruction, destructive force, destroys it. And yes, it is Shiva who wields that force. But from another way of looking at it, what's doing it is force. The force that they wield. Force is Shakti. Vishnu is kind of pointing it out in this sense, that like you can look at it that we're doing it. That's true. That's not false. But the very property of doingness, of energy in motion, is Shakti. And he meditates on her in that sense.
Nice. So this is Saunaka and Sutta are speaking again in this Purana.
Yep, and a lot of Puranas are. The Vishnu Purana was an exception. That one being a narration by Parashara to Maitreya, his student. But quite a lot of the Puranas were taught by Ugrasrava Sutta to Shaunaka. Yeah. This is another one of those.
And say again, what's this Sutta's name? Which Sutta is this?
Ugrasrava is his name. So a Sutta is a title. A Sutta means there's a class of sages called the Suttas who memorize Puranas. So obviously he is a Sutta teaching Puranas here. His name is Ugrasrava.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow. I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know that there were so many Puranas from. I mean, like, where's Saunaka coming from? He's like the main monk or something like that, of a group of monks listening to.
Exactly. Shaunaka. So Shaunaka was the one who he explained here in today's reading. When Kali Yuga began, Shaunaka, who was a great sage, asked Brahma if there was a place of refuge from Kali Yuga. somewhere on earth where Kali Yuga wouldn't come. And
Right. He
Brahma
talked about that.
guided him with this vision of a wheel that he was supposed to follow, and found a place in a forest where Brahma
yeah.
promised him Kali Yuga would never come to that spot. And so he made an ashram there. And because and then he didn't just keep it a secret, he told a bunch of other sages, I have a spot where we'll be safe from Kali Yuga. And so a bunch of other sages came there to his ashram. And so he's the founder of the ashram.
Where is this theoretically or technically?
Yeah, good question. Yeah.
Oh, so it's kind of a mystery.
There is a place in India that claims to be it, but yeah, it's somewhat a mystery whether we actually know or can access this place that is supposedly free from Kali Yuga. But
Is there a name for it?
Naimisharanya. So Aranya means forest. Naimisha forest.
Nai NAI or something like that?
Yes, Naimisha. Naimisha.
Naimisha forest, or what is it?
Yeah, forest. So Aranyaka Aranya means forest. So Naimisharanya in Sanskrit, Naimisha forest.
Cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so,
that's just kind of a mythical, like Camelot kind of place where it's in India somewhere, but we don't know where, but there's some sort of like beyond Kali Yugan portal.
essentially, yes. And again, to reiterate, there is a place in India, like you can go to it, that claims to be this place. But it's not everyone believes that it's the real thing.
Beyond Kali Yuga.
Mhm.
Okay. I'll check it out.
Yeah. I haven't been there myself.
Have not yet?
I have not.
Did
No.
you say?
I have not. I have not.
Curious.
Yeah. But yeah, so Shaunaka was the founder of that ashram, and that's why everybody there kind of reveres him as the guru of the ashram, is Shaunaka.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much for reading and for discussing.
Yeah. Thank you for coming.
It seems just, we were talking about this last night at the Shivaratri event, but it really seems just super very harmonious and in flow of nature to be doing this particular Purana.
Starting the morning after Shivaratri. Yeah, it just worked out.
I'm loving this.
Yeah.
Because I was reading more about Shivaratri. That was about the marriage. That was about the marriage.
It was their wedding night. It's their wedding anniversary.
Well, like Shiva Ratri, but it's really Shiva Shakti union.
Exactly. Yeah. It's their wedding anniversary. Shiva and Parvati. Yeah.
This is so great to starting this today.
Yes. Jai Ma.
Awesome. Thank you, Deva.
Yep. Thank you very much.